So we're going to dive right into our Star Wars The Force Awakens discussion. Alyssa, I think you have the best notes, probably the best place to start.
I have the only notes.
That makes them the best.
So I find it really cool. Like, I never even considered it before, but the way that all the Star Wars movies start off with words on the screen, it's like the movie is presenting itself to us as a text initially, which sort of is like an invitation for us to critique it and talk about it in this way. And there is a lot to talk about with this one.
I think so too. I think there's a lot that's happened between, well, if you're looking at it, in universe between episode 6 and 7, if you're looking at it in the real world between the prequels and this. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So should we go from like beginning to end, or just...
I think it would make sense to move through the movie chronologically.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I took my notes. So.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about how the movie sort of opens up with BB-8 and the constant presence of artificial intelligence. What do you guys think of that?
That's interesting. Yeah, BB-8 is a great character. I love the design of BB-8. It has lively colors, the orange and white, and it has a lively personality, and it makes cute sounds. And what could you not like about BB-8?
Little Bebo.
Little Bebo.
Little Bebo.
But, yeah, there's no other artificial intelligence that really stood out to me during the movie. But what were you thinking of some other?
Yeah, I mean, you have C-3PO, R2-D2. I mean, they're constant characters in the Star Wars saga.
That's definitely true.
And they have full developed personalities and their own languages even.
Yeah?
Well, I thought it was interesting when Rey was, after she salvaged parts, she was scrubbing them, and she like zoned out looking at that woman, like thinking like that's her future.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it looked like a robot to me. Like yelled at her and like being next to her, like, "Hey, get back to work."
But you know what?
And I thought that was interesting that it was like almost like commentary that like she is a slave to the robot, but then it was almost like hierarchy. Like she was a slave to a robot, and then the robot was a slave to that one guy.
Ungar plot.
Yeah.
But there are two things I wanted to say about that. One is there's a weird melding of machine and organic on Jakku. There are a lot of characters where it's like, is that a living thing? Is that a robot? That guy's arms are robotic. That person's head seems robotic. Like, weird, kind of off-putting. It made Star Wars feel really alien to me.
Yes.
And then the other thing is that Rey was feasting off the carcass of the dead Empire. Literally.
Yes.
She was scrapping and turning that scrap into food. She was like a vulture. And she lived in the carcass of an AT-AT walker. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was very symbolic that, she was scraping at the remnants of the Empire, which was kind of like, it made me think, would she have survived if there weren't those scraps left over?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I find it was sort of almost a reminder or just a way of letting the audience know that the Empire isn't actually gone.
Right.
That it didn't just go away with the episode 6. It's still there. Like, not just the remnants of what it was, but there's this new version. What is it called? The First Order.
Okay, so I just want to comment on that.
Yes.
There were a number of Star Destroyers in the dunes.
Oh, yeah.
And it made me think of Tatooine, but even more terrible. You know how Tatooine is desolate and it's a desert? This is a place that's littered with the skeletons of the old Empire. It's like kind of disgusting and decaying, on top of being a desert, unpleasant place.
Yeah. But that's a really good point, too. There's so many mirrors and parallels with this movie and A New Hope.
Oh, so many.
It's crazy. And obviously they did that on purpose. Well, maybe not obvious. I can't assume that was their purpose, but that definitely seems intent to me.
I agree.
Following like a successful story arc and just kind of improving on it.
Successful. But I think, too, just to allude to who Rey is. I think we can all guess who Rey is.
Right.
Please expand on that thought.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Let's not jump ahead of ourselves.
We won't jump
the
ahead.
daughter of Supreme Leader Scone.
Snoke. You know what? You did a little anagram there. Supreme Leader Scone.
It's canon.
That suits him so much better. I must
He's
say.
a trusty old
I think
Scone.
that is so much
Scone and
better.
Debo.
I just wanted to say also I love the opening shot of the Finalizer. That's the name of Kylo Ren's ship.
Okay.
Covering that planet or that moon and showing the relatively peaceful space then being dominated by the First Order.
Which is basically what's happening in the movie. It's
Right.
foreshadow in a way.
Yep.
That's exactly what it is. Not in a way, that's what it is. Yeah, no, I found it interesting that it took us from the stormtroopers, and there's such a strong contrast between the First Order and the stormtroopers, and everyone on the dark side, or everyone that's part of the First Order, is this like masked, uniformed. They're like masked, and they're completely genderless society. They're
I'm
all
so glad you said that.
they're all almost like they might as well be robots.
Well, yeah. Okay, so Captain Phasma is a character I love very much.
Yes.
But she is genderless effectively as a character. I think she could have been portrayed by a man and it would make zero difference in her character. But I think all of the troopers are basically genderless, sexless, however you want to think about that. But there's that one line a little later on how they're programmed from birth. And I doubt that includes romantic programming or sexuality programming.
Right.
I think they're probably very empty in that way.
Right. But are they?
I don't know.
Well, they're programmed to be empty.
But how true can that be? Because look at Finn or
But he-
FN2187.
But he was able to, like, as soon as he kind of broke out of like that programming, essentially by that traumatic experience, then he started experiencing like these emotions, like like guilt and whatever. Like he didn't want to shoot the villagers.
Right.
He didn't want to do this. He started becoming more human and like having his more of his own identity. Like he took off the mask because he couldn't breathe in it. And
He took off the mask because of the blood.
Oh,
That was
Yeah,
what made
well, he
him
was
want to take
hyperventilating.
off
I'm
the
like,
mask.
oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But he he couldn't take it, and then they immediately said like, put your mask back on, like to say like you don't have an identity, like you're a stormtrooper.
Right. Get rid of your identity.
Yeah, put it back.
Put that away.
That's
Yeah.
another thing that comes up a lot in the movie is naming and the power of names.
Right.
And how the stormtroopers are not given names. They're given like numbers or like serial numbers basically. And then how it's like a transformation for Poe to tell Finn, oh well, I'm calling you Finn. And
Right.
now this is like his new identity.
Right.
Which he immediately latches onto, and he's fond of it.
Yes.
Because I think when he meets Rey, or eventually
I'm
when they
Finn.
talk, I'm Finn. He doesn't even, say.
And when he meets
Doesn't
Phasma
even
again, he's like, I'm Finn now. I'm
Yeah.
Finn.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
answers it pretty clearly. But it's not easy for him to make the transition because there's that long scene in the desert after the crash. He's still wearing his stormtrooper outfit, and it's gotta be hot. I mean, you can tell he's sweating, but he takes that armor off one piece at a time. Like he takes his sweetest time shutting it off.
I really like that shot. I think it's sort of panning across with him walking across the dune,
Yeah.
and he's dropping one piece at a time. And it's sort of like the physical and mental journey of, okay, I'm leaving that TIE fighter behind, and now I'm going into this other civilization, this other world, which is
Completely
very removed from the Empire, the First
unfamiliar
Order.
territory.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they didn't make it like, that quick of a change for him. Because
Right.
you have to think
Yeah.
that was his whole life. That was everything that he knew.
Right.
Yeah.
But going back to your comment about about the programming and then saying that he became more human, I don't know if I agree that he became more human or if he's already human.
Well, he is biologically human.
Well, yes, but I mean in the sense that I don't think it was so gradual for him. I think that he made the choice right away.
Right, because it was his first mission.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought that the way it showed it in the film, he started looking around and kind of freaking out. It was like robot and then person who was woken from a trance, and they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
So it seemed like the programming was absolute. Like, he wasn't really comprehending things until he snapped, and then he was, like, waking back up to reality.
Yeah.
And then after that, it took a while to adjust and find identity and all that. But
Yeah.
from one moment to the next was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Well, I have to, was it you that made a comment about how later in the movie he can kill the other stormtroopers like it's nothing? Which I find a little interesting, I have to say,
Yeah.
considering that he was a stormtrooper and he knows, I mean, obviously he knows what they're thinking and what they're feeling through their training, but he also recognizes that they're people too.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it's also like, you know, maybe it's just something they didn't put much thought to and it's convenient to the plot. Or if you want to look into it, maybe it shows like the power in like a person having an identity. Like, you know, like in like the real world, like when people view like demographics as like beneath them or as animals or as like not worthy, it's so much easier to treat them poorly. And even though he was a stormtrooper, he's not anymore, and now he has his own identity, he has his own name. But these other stormtroopers are just mindless drones still,
Well,
in a way, and
yeah.
they don't have that power of identity or name themselves. So it's easy for him to be like, they're just the enemy. They're not people. They don't have a face. Because I'm assuming that as a stormtrooper, being programmed, they're not like given like that social time between each other or anything. They're just like workers.
Well, that's a really good point that you make. And do you know what RSAs are? The repressive state apparatuses. So basically, Althusser, who is like a spin-off of Marxist or takes Marxist theory into his own hands, is under the belief that people exist in an ideology which helps them get through daily life. It's a way of seeing reality but not actually seeing it as it is.
Okay.
You see it through your own lens, right? Like, I believe that I work because I like working. But in reality, I work because I need to make money, not necessarily because I love it or anything like that. So that's an ideology. So RSAs are one of the forces that keep people in their ideologies. And RSAs are repressive state apparatuses. They're like the law, the police, the government.
Okay.
So that's what stormtroopers function as in the movie, right?
Right.
Keeping people in their ideologies. So in that sense, they are mindless drones. They are just cogs in a machine.
Well, I wanted to mention, too, that moment where Finn turns on the other stormtroopers is after Starkiller Base destroys the Hosnian system. So Finn may have been enraged by the murder of billions of innocents, whereas before he was saying, oh, we gotta run, we can't face
He
them.
didn't want to confront it.
He wanted to just, let's take off and not worry about it. But after that point, how could he let that go without fighting back?
And I think that that's fair. That's a good point. But it didn't take him long to get there.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? I think the way I'm imagining it isn't that this is someone who experienced ideology in a social learning sort of way or a behavioral learning over time or cultural learning. I'm imagining like he's plugged into a machine and it's programmed in that way, you know. Oh, but if it could be like flashed on and imprinted instantly, then maybe it could be like broken instantly. Whereas a real human being has years of experiences and ideas and they're working within this framework. I don't know how long Finn was really like conscious, if he was just programmed and there wasn't a real learning process behind it. You know, easy on, easy off kind of situation, I'm imagining.
I don't know if I can see it like programming, because I'm also thinking back to the clone army and like the Clone War.
Yeah.
You remember how those guys came about. And they were still human and they were still educated as human beings, obviously under a very strict regimen, but they're still people ultimately beneath it all. I don't know that they don't explain that there's any way to program them like a computer chip.
Right, yeah, that's true. They learn and they have personalities to some extent and emotions, and they're not really that robotic.
And they must retain some personalities because they go through constant checkups too. That was mentioned by Phasma.
Right. Yeah, she said something about this was his first offense, and we'll check him up or whatever.
And then she sent him to conditioning.
Yeah, but that's when he took off.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
So who knows what
interesting.
conditioning is?
So
like
they are-
reset.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So it's interesting though. But did you guys notice? This is a totally different topic, but this just sprung into my mind. The lack of diversity in the First Order.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, and the not masked people.
Yes.
Yes.
Except for one scene when they have a lovely secretary woman who is African American or African British or I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the people in power.
But she's the only one with any tan coloring of any kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
But think about the old empire. That was
Aryan,
older
it might as
British
well been the Aryan
men.
race, honestly.
Yes.
Like that's what I thought of right away was.
But that's kind of the point too. That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite points of Star Wars is the little political message that gets slipped in there. That diversity, democracy, valuing women, valuing aliens, these are strengths. And the Empire, the First Order, lacking diversity, having a very concentrated power structure, those are weaknesses.
Right.
Yes.
Because even they were trying to show the contrast when it showed the scene of the Republic planet about to be destroyed.
Uh-huh.
And it showed the people on the planet, and it was it had 6 faces in the forefront, and it was all extremely different faces. With
Right.
the female person with the official uniform, so it's a female person of power or recognition,
Right.
and all these different weird aliens.
Right.
It was stark diversity right after they showed the stormtroopers standing in line with
Yes.
the blonde, blue-eyed, pale guy shouting at
Yes.
them, and then they all saluted to it.
Yes, I mean, and then even some of the things that the guy that particular character says, he talks about how they won't tolerate nonconformity. That was one of the lines in the movie, and then in that speech, he talks about how they're against disorder, hence
Right.
First Order, which is stupid. It's just,
You got him.
that's just why. Let's talk about gender dynamics,
Okay.
please, because I think I have some issues with this movie that I did not notice before.
Oh,
I
okay.
definitely do.
Let's
But
hear
go
them.
ahead. Oh,
I want to
first?
hear yes.
Okay, so I think this movie kind of circle jerks itself. It does a lot of look at this strong woman, and look how great we are, showing her be strong, and don't take my hand, making such a point. Look how independent she is. She doesn't need Finn to whack her. She can whack
Yeah.
herself. Yet also, at the same point, she looks alien. The first scene she's in, it shows her with her mask on, and she has this kind of odd movement looking up the shaft, and it's kind of alien with this mask.
Yeah.
And then she takes her mask off, and this beautiful feminine tune starts playing. Oh my gosh, she's a pretty girl. Look how pretty she is. And then it goes into a whimsy when she starts freaking surfboarding down the hill.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't feel genuine because it's simultaneously making the point of her being a strong woman, but then in the same sense as Finn and Poe having flaws and not being perfect, it's showing her as perfect in every way. So it's kind of insulting to women, I feel because if a woman is to be the protagonist, she must have 0 flaws. And it's not a relatable character because no person, man or woman watching this is going to be as resourceful, as strong, as good at flying, as good at everything instantly, can speak every language possible. All of these things all together so effortlessly, it's
Yeah.
inhuman. But in order for an audience to appeal to a female protagonist in this genre, she has to be absolutely perfect, or else she's not strong enough and they can't respect her. And that's insulting, and it's honestly sexist.
Yeah, the whole relationship between Finn and Rey is very patriarchal.
Yeah.
He's always trying to hold her hand. He
Yeah.
always has to lead the way. The second something goes wrong, she panics when they're in the ship with Han Solo and she sees the creature. she like panics and doesn't know what to do. But then like Krista is like, oh, all of a sudden, you know, she's on her own, she's strong, she can save the day, she's so resourceful. Her lips were the perfect shade of pink the whole movie.
Yeah.
I know that's such a small, ridiculous detail, but
It's
why?
interesting.
She lives in the desert.
Right.
You know, I want to say I agree. I think she could have been a little more roughed up,
Yeah.
Right.
and it would have made sense. Her clothes could have been dirtier and kind of torn, or oily, or whatever.
Right.
And she could have had a couple of scars. You know, obviously she's getting in fights with people.
Yes.
She has a rough life out there.
Right.
So she does look pretty ideal considering.
Her
Which-
outfit was bland in color, yet it was still flowing and
It was
graceful.
still very feminine.
It was very
yes.
feminine. She had the wrap with the belt, so it kind of covered her chest area, it like accentuated it in a way. And she
That's
still
true, the way
had
it was
her
cut.
décolleté showing.
Yes.
Which is like why, if you're gonna be in the desert, you don't want a sunburn, girl. And,
But that's true, though. That's
and
not...
then even though she like when she took off her mask, she had like a little scuffs of dirt. She still had perfect skin, you could see, and her like eyelashes were curled, like everything.
Yes,
It was like
yes.
as if like she got a makeover,
Not
and then
a
she took
hair
like a
out of
little puff,
place.
and she did like too much bronzer, and she like puffed herself in a couple spots, and like
Yes.
now I'm dirty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but so her looks, again, her hair was always perfect, never looked dirty or greasy, or God only knows when the last time she washed it. But, you know, no hygiene whatsoever, and that's fine, because that's not necessarily important to the movie, it's not important to her character, but
Finn
he
always
explicitly
sweating.
he explicitly asks her, like, do you have a boyfriend?
Is he cute?
Right away. Do you have a
That's
cute
true.
boyfriend?
Which to me was even more odd because he just came out of his conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, I'm kind of interested. Do you have a boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a bit of a jump.
Like he's never experienced like sexuality before.
Right,
now
and this is
all
one of the
sudden,
first things you think
He's
of.
like, I'm gonna date this girl.
Yeah.
Which like it makes sense, like he would grow attached to a person but like immediately sexually.
Yeah.
This person who like beat him up and yelled at him.
But her too is what I'm saying, is
Like,
that the attraction is
mutual.
mutually displayed in the movie.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense, because it happens very quickly, but then
Yeah.
but then again, that's another pattern in the movie that drives me nuts, is that Rey is constantly seeking approval from the men in the movie. All of the men.
I think it would have benefited from either Leia having a more prominent role,
Yes.
or having Mon Mothma, who's one of the old rebel leaders, or having, you know, other female characters say, yes, here's General Leia, and here's General Sarah, and here's Senator Jennifer, you know, whatever. And then she can interact with different female leaders and say, you know, have those more interesting conversations, or seek their approval or their understanding. I guess in defense of the movie, there is Maz, who is female, but alien female, so...
No, and you know, but again, it's such a small part.
Yeah.
And they spend their conversation basically talking about Luke. Yes, they
Yeah,
talk
that's-
about
that's
the
true.
Force, but they talk about Luke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to push the Luke story. Like,
Right.
oh, he might be here soon in the movie. Well, it's interesting speaking about that too, because there's the scenes where Finn and Poe hug, like when
Yes.
they re-meet, which is awesome because I
have
totally
that.
ship them. But
I totally wrote bromance in my notes.
There's a definite
But
bromance.
They
Homosocial
but they
relationship,
make sure
yes.
when they do the hug, it's extremely broy.
Yes.
But man, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you, bro. Like, you know, they don't say bro, but it's like pretty much they're saying bro.
They are heterosexual men.
When you have
Openly
at the end of
heterosexual men.
right, very comfortable, very mesk. So when you have Rey and them get back to the resisting the
resistance space.
I was gonna say the resisting planet, but
Well, it is a
Sure,
planet
yes,
that is resistant.
and
so-
like Rey and Leia meet eyes, and they walk up and have this super compassionate hug. I'm like, you don't know her that well, like, and I know it's because Han Solo died, but it's just like a very feminine thing. It's like, it's because they're girls. They can be compassionate and doesn't have to be broy. But if Finn and Poe meet and they thought each other died and they were trying to save each other, it's like an exciting broy thing. Yeah, and I can kind of see why they did it like that, but it just seems interesting that it was just made to be more of a point, like, oh, only the women will show compassion to each other truly, and the men will show bro and camaraderie.
But okay, I just want to say Disney is keeping plausible deniability with all of these relationships because
Yes.
Poe was biting his lip when he ran to Finn,
yeah,
and he jumped into his arm. It's true. If you, there was the kind of body language of like, hey, I'm excited to see you, and I don't mean because we're gonna hang out and watch TV. You know, I think Disney is hedging their bets, seeing what are the fans excited about. We can go in a few different directions because don't you think there's plausible deniability or there's open avenues in any direction? They could say, well, as it turns out, it's actually going to be Finn and Rey. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, actually, it's going to be Finn and Poe. Or actually, here's a fourth character, who we introduce in the future movies, and then they end up with Rey. Oh, okay.
I will give Disney the benefit of the doubt because I love Disney. But I want to say that this movie completely upholds compulsory heterosexuality. It exists under the assumption that everyone is straight, and if they're not, there's something wrong with them, and they're not in this movie for that reason. That's what it seems like to me. You've seen the movie way more times than I have. I've seen it twice, and I didn't get that at all.
Okay.
I do see a homosocial relationship between Finn and Poe, but
not sexual.
clearly too heterosexual. Like they're making it clear.
They bro it up.
We could
just
we
in
could
case.
we could say though that that's.
But you know, if you look at it through a homo lens, like of like that, oh, like you know, I'm looking for like that interesting relationship between them, then you can see it. Like,
You
oh,
could
he
say
bit his
that,
lip. Oh my gosh.
It's
It's like maybe he just thinks his
overcompensation,
coat
both
is
of
sexy.
them.
Or
But
maybe he's
maybe-
attracted to the coat. You don't know.
But no, I mean, but we could say that maybe both of them are overcompensating in a way
Yeah.
because they're unsure of the other. Hence that extra, like, bro, manly, tough guy reaction to the other. They both kind of had that.
Yeah, because they jump and they like pat on each other's backs. It's almost like gorillas like beating their chest. Like, yeah, we're like so strong. Like, yeah.
That can be a gay thing too, though.
I mean, of course.
It's very touchy-feely.
Unconventional,
It's very like,
yes.
hey, like guy on guy, more so than usual, like handshake or, oh, I'm glad to see you made it. A little pat on the shoulder. It was more than that.
It was more than
So,
that. Who knows? Who knows what will happen, though, in the next movie or the next whatever.
Yeah.
But we do know that there's kind of a push for Rey and Finn.
Because she gives him the kiss before she leaves for.
Yes, and
I
she
would be
says,
happy
"I
for them
know
to
we
be
will see
together."
each other."
I think they would be. I think they would be a great like supportive like best friends
okay.
who like
I
both
would-
found companionship at the same time for like the first time.
I would
Right,
love
yeah.
to see just regular friendship between two, like a man and a woman of the opposite sex. Just nothing else, just friendship.
Right.
Because I have yet to see that in a movie.
No, I agree. That would be fine too. That would make sense.
I just want to see it. I think it would be interesting. And then maybe we could put Finn and Poe together. I don't know.
Yeah.
They'd make a great team. A pilot and a gunman. There you go.
Yeah.
A romantic duo like Han Solo and Chewbacca.
That's not strictly canon, though.
But he gets excited about Chewbacca's crossbow.
Well, yes.
Very phallic.
Oh, come on. It is not that phallic.
No, I was joking.
Okay, so were either one of you annoyed by the first lightsaber battle in this movie?
With Finn fighting the hammer guy.
Finn and yeah. Yes.
I mean,
The guy literally looked at the lightsaber, threw aside his gun, and took out his electric sword thingy.
Yeah.
Because why not?
I know. I'm like, what was he holding? It looked like he was holding like a shield, and
shield
something
and a
else.
gun.
A gun, yeah.
And he
And-
decided he didn't need his gun.
And he was like,
Yeah.
in a very deep voice, traitor.
And his gun would have taken him out and got shot. He was like 3 feet in front of him.
I guess he wanted
yeah.
to like punish him. I think that's like the tone. He was like traitor, and he was so angry. He's like, I will punish you for
Which is totally
being
plausible. That's
nonconformist.
the problem with villains, right? Is they always monologue, they always
Right.
take their time, and that's how they end up losing.
Yeah, it was
And
very
I'm
showy.
just saying, one shot and he would have been done. Finn would have been out of the movie.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
because he's Finn, it would have been like he reflected the bullet somehow. And
But
Right.
it also annoys me to know, I don't know why. Maybe because I'm a diehard fan and I feel like only Jedis should use lightsabers.
that,
But
like,
he shouldn't have been allowed to use the lightsaber at all. Shouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. And he uses it like 3 times.
Okay, so I think the real world explanation is they want to do a little bait and switch situation with that.
Okay.
Oh, look, Finn, he's using the lightsaber. Oh, he's fighting these guys. Just kidding, it's really Rey.
right.
Because we didn't know that before. Okay.
That's the explanation that makes sense to me. Otherwise, I don't know why they did that.
I don't know
Because it's
why.
not a great fight.
It's not. It's a terrible fight.
Yeah.
And it just made me upset because, no, you're not a Jedi. You use a Jedi's weapon. So that really bothered me. Okay, let's talk about Kylo Ren.
I know you've seen the map.
Yep. So, one thing I want to mention before I forget is we know Kylo Ren has some pretty decent Force abilities, but we don't know about Supreme Leader Scone. Because there's that one scene where he says to Supreme Leader Snoke, I'll bring the scavenger to you, and then with your help, I can
With
read
your
your
guidance.
thoughts. With your guidance. Instead of Snoke saying, I'll just do it myself or something, which you can imagine the Emperor saying, bring her to me and I'll do it myself.
Right.
It's odd for like, okay, help me out with this. I need your help with this project.
But it makes sense, this person who seems like alien and seems like he's lived a long life and is wise. The Supreme Leader is wise.
Yeah.
It makes sense because that kind of person wants someone under him who has great power to do his work for him, like having like a powerful mercenary. Like, so it's
Right.
like, oh, a Force user, I will make him my pet to like do my bidding because I'm physically not strong.
Yeah.
I think that you're right, Dan, though, because even later, when Han Solo finally confronts Kylo Ren, Han Solo says the same thing. He's just using you.
Right.
So I don't think he has any real power of his own at all.
Yeah, just influence.
I think maybe he has some political knowledge or political skill, but I don't think he's physically powerful.
Yeah.
He looks scarred and sort of decayed, and
Right,
I don't
because he's
know.
probably tiny. He does
Ugly.
this giant holograph, but he's probably like normal human size.
Right.
Sure. Yes.
Should be like intimidating. Like, oh no, he like because if he was the same size and he's like all frail and skinny,
Right.
scarred, it'd be like, you're not really that scary, are you? Like, I can kill you.
Right.
Well, it's like the Emperor. He
Yeah.
always kept his face covered with that cloak, and
Because he's
he was like an
old
old,
and
shriveled man.
Right.
he gets a discount at Denny's. So, like,
So, and that reminds that reminds me of something that I thought, that the dark side has 2 halves. It has the intellectual evil, political manipulation, kind of. I'm thinking of like Palpatine in the Senate, bribing people, and the courts are rigged, so don't bother that, and the Senate is under his control, and whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have the Darth Vader and Kylo Ren type, and Darth Maul,
Like
who are
spiritual,
rageful. And and
He was cool.
Dooku is very much the intellectual gentleman type. So, see, there's kind of that split down the middle, in my opinion. Of you're kind of like evil in a cold way, or you're evil in a hot-headed way.
That's a good
I
point.
think the cold ones take advantage of the hot ones.
yeah. And the hot ones benefit because they get to take out their anger.
And they have all the political and military infrastructure that's built up by the cold ones.
Yeah.
Because a hothead isn't going to build a huge army and take over the galaxy alone.
Right.
So, do we want to examine Kylo Ren killing his father?
Yes. It's very Freudian.
He's like, I'll see you soon, Mom.
Oh, wink.
But I think, yeah, like they portrayed with like Kylo Ren, when he killed Han, it was like, Kylo Ren was struggling, and Han's like, oh yeah, I'll help you, and then he was like, yeah, okay, thanks, Dad, and he killed him, because it was helping Kylo Ren pick a side completely,
Right.
because it was like his biggest tie to like the light side was like his family. That wasn't Darth Vader, his parents.
Right. Right, which is like the line at the very beginning when the older gentleman, whose name I don't know,
Yes.
said, "You can't deny your family," and Kylo Ren thinks of his family as being evil.
Which is ironic because Darth Vader turns good at the end before he dies.
Right.
Actually, he saves Luke's life. So, yeah, I mean, really, he ended up being good, not evil.
Probably doing the most good of anyone.
So, there's a great amount of irony there. And I wonder if that's a big part of his struggle, even, is that he keeps looking to Darth Vader as his source and his, like God to pray to on the dark side. But in reality, Darth Vader is long gone.
Right, and he's not really a role model of pure evil. Ultimately, at the very end, was redeemed, and, So yeah, if you're looking for the darkest figure, that's not the one.
That's not the one. And it is kind of funny to me what a stereotype Kylo Ren is, and how he pretty much tries to copy Darth Vader, even down to the voice, which for Darth Vader wasn't really a choice. It was necessary. It was part of his helmet, but Kylo Ren has made it a choice to have this,
Right.
James Earl Jones voice.
Yep.
And why? I don't know. He thinks it makes him more intimidating, I guess.
There's such a huge contradiction between his equipment, his apparatus, as Poe says it. That's such a funny line. It's hard to understand you with all that apparatus. But, it's his features under the mask are somewhat feminine, somewhat,
They are.
youthful.
He's kind of pretty.
Yeah, and he has this long,
He's like a
wavy
man-child,
hair, and
yeah.
it's like, okay, this doesn't match up at all. So it's a very
And
intentional
he
way.
gets very teary-eyed, and he's
Yeah, he's
very
sort of emotional.
empathetic.
He's extremely emotional.
Yeah.
He has so many tantrums in
Right.
the movie. He can't control himself at all.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. This is relevant to Kylo Ren, but it's also kind of going back to like the gender. Because when Kylo Ren had Poe, he had Poe tortured,
Right.
and then Poe didn't give any information. So then he tortured Poe using the Force, and like Poe was like in extreme pain. And then when Kylo Ren had Rey, he didn't know she was Force sensitive immediately. He just like took her.
Yeah.
And he gently waited for her to wake up, completely untouched, and was like, "I know you've seen the map, like, can you just tell me?"
It was
And
a
it was
discussion,
very-
sort of.
It was very, like, gentle, almost, like, diplomatic, compared to, like, how he treated Poe. And I was, like, kind of annoyed.
She's
I'm like,
a girl.
right, and it's just
So-
like,
she's weaker, and they have to treat her
he's like, she's kind of
nicer.
pretty, and, Dad never let me have a girlfriend.
But you know what? He learns his lesson for underestimating her.
He does.
Which is something that I actually really like about how the movie handles gender. And he kind of brushes her off. Oh, she's just a scavenger. Don't worry about it. But then he goes to Snoke and says, she's actually stronger than we thought. And then at the end of the film, he gets cut up, like 5 or 6 times by her, and he's pretty badly hurt.
Yes.
So that kind of came full circle, I think.
That's true.
Yes, there are things that I like and things that I don't like. That's for sure. But this is only the first one. I can't wait to see the next one.
Oh, I'm
and
so
see
excited.
what they do when she's actually trained as a Jedi. By Luke Skywalker. That's gonna be so cool.
Okay, I want to say I really like the aesthetic of the movie. I think the effects are so good. The like the sets are detailed, and it's just a pleasure to look at.
Right.
And like the ship designs and the weapon designs and the costumes and all of that, they're nitpicks, but basically it was a lot of attention and care put into everything.
Yeah.
Right. Even like in the shots, like within the scenes, like when they were flying the ship, it like made sure like when Han Solo was crash landing on that
On the Starkiller base, you mean?
Starkiller base, and he was crashing, so it was showing the ship, but then it would flash back to Han and them in the ship, like rocking around. Then it would flash back, and it would go back and forth to kind of like remind you like there's people in there. Because sometimes I feel like when you look at these giant ships, it's like so CGI, it's so like sci-fi, fantastical. Like it almost like it like takes away the immersion, like that for me at least. That like, oh wait, like the protagonists are in there, like it's actually like affecting them. Because
Right.
if they were crashing and then they just like landed and you didn't even see them in it, I'd be like, oh, like they had their seatbelt on, they're fine. You know, like they weren't like rocking around, like, you know, experiencing it. So
Right.
I like that, like they made sure to like kind of flash back and forth in those types of scenes to like keep that like effect going.
Yeah, it did humanize those situations a little more.
I feel like sometimes, I felt this way with the other movies as well, but it's shocking to realize how huge the galaxy is, because that's really, if you think about it, the entire set of the whole series is the galaxy.
Right.
And then going from planet to planet, and sometimes it gets confusing for me to remember that, oh, the Republic didn't like disappear, it wasn't destroyed, it was still there, and there were still people, like there were still senators and, you know, emissaries from their planets going to the Republic for meetings and taking care of the galaxy. But then you still have the Resistance, and you still have
Right.
the
Separate
Empire,
factions.
the
First
First
Order.
Order, yes. And it's just sometimes hard to tell how much power the First Order really has.
I agree. That
And where does the Resistance come from exactly? And how far is their influence? And how far is the Republic still in charge of the galaxy?
right.
It's really hard to tell.
Well, yeah, and there are a couple of lines that shed some light on that. I think near the end of the movie, during the attack on Starkiller Base, someone says, we lost half our fleet. And their fleet was just X-Wings. So it's like, so what, they have a handful of X-Wings left at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
And the main New Republic fleet was destroyed, but did they have secondary fleets or, you know, whatever? So yeah, the balance of power is not clear.
Yeah.
Who won? Everyone lost, I guess.
It's a good question, but thinking too back to Return of the Jedi, I was under the impression that that meant that the Empire was gone, and that, you know, the Republic or whatever would be taking power again. And you have to think, I mean, unless they're humans and they live longer, it's only been 30, 40 years since that, and all of a sudden now we have the First Order that's more powerful, it seems, than the Empire was.
So the thing that I got from the First Order is that it's smaller, but
Okay.
their technology is more advanced.
Okay.
Because obviously they don't have the infrastructure or the manpower of the Empire, but it has been 30 years and they've been doing R&D and, you know, building
Yeah,
super weapons, I
yeah.
guess. So that's kind of what I took, but that's never really confirmed. It's just sort of the impression. Like the Finalizer, the huge ship that Kylo Ren is on, looks more impressive than a Star Destroyer to me. And I think the official numbers are that it's much bigger. But how many of those things do they have?
Yeah.
Is that the flagship? They have one or two of those? Or do they have 13,000 of them all over the place, you know?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question, and I just find it weird that if they are smaller, if they don't have that much power, then why is the Resistance still this like underground secret organization in constant hiding? Or is it just on particular planets that they have to be like that?
Well,
Yeah, it's not really clear how big the Resistance is.
I feel like the Resistance was as big as we've seen it, and they kind of alluded, like the First Order, like Emperor's, or what's his name?
Supreme
Leader Scone alluded to, like, oh, the Republic is not there to stop us, or the Republic is there to stop us.
Right.
And it kind of alluded to me, like, okay, so the Republic is more powerful than the Empire, and the Republic is like the diplomatic, like, you can't do that, like, you don't make us sort
Right.
of people. Because obviously Scone was like so willing to like just destroy them that like if he had more power than them at any time, he could have just sent his like troops in and just killed everyone.
Well, I
or
think-
like through a coup, but like
Right.
they
He,
had to
he
wait.
couldn't win through conventional means, and that's why they had Starkiller Base.
Right.
Because he had to destabilize and strike first to have any shot. I think if it were a fair fight right away, he probably would have lost. Right? Because that's Otherwise, he would have just done that.
Right. So the Republic, to me, was like a powerful government that was the strongest, yet it was like trying to play by the rules and play the most safe. And in that way, by trying to play by the rules, letting the First Order get away with a lot.
Right.
Because they didn't want to like ruffle too many feathers. And that's what like the Resistance was born out of. Probably that the Republic was too idle.
Right, I think that's the idea.
In
is
which case, history is repeating itself very quickly, because that's exactly what happened the first time when Anakin became Darth Vader and the Emperor took over. That's exactly what Leia's position was in A New Hope, was this in the Resistance, which wasn't technically a part of the Republic, but... Right. So it seems like either history is repeating itself very quickly, or things haven't really changed.
Yeah, I think both.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cyclical, and the same dynamic exists of having people who are with the dark side or the Empire First Order, and people who are strictly against it, and then in the middle, people who kind of go along with it. People who went along with the Republic, okay, whatever. People who went along with the Empire, okay, whatever. You know. So I think the New Republic was sort of going along with the First Order because they didn't realize what a threat it was. And the Resistance was more of the hardliner faction.
But I will say that I got quite a bit of this movie confused with Rogue One in my mind.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. Similar scenes or similar characters or what?
Yeah, well, I think so, because I confused some of the things that happens to Rey with some of the things that happens to
Jyn Erso?
Jyn, yes. Because when she goes, when Rey goes down and opens the chest for the lightsaber, I got it confused when Jyn goes down and like finds her father in that one place.
Goes down and finds the...
She's in that temple, and...
With the hologram?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
yes.
Maz's castle and the rebel guy have kind of similar bases, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I got those things. I got a number of things confused, and then I got Poe confused with the guy
Cassian.
Yes.
You know, when you have a genre that uses a lot of tropes and stereotypes, I think that happens a lot.
Yes. And so I kept expecting things to happen, and then I was like, in my head, oh no, that's in Rogue One. Oh no, that's in Rogue One.
Right. So I guess overall, I'd say I really enjoyed the movie. A lot of familiar elements, but you know, that's done intentionally to keep people interested and drawn, things that people already like. And yeah, any other final thoughts?
I really like the pacing of this movie in particular. For me, like, I watched like the original trilogy like later in life. It wasn't like a nostalgic thing for me. And when I watched it, I remember there were so many like slow moments and like it felt a little dull to me at times. And with this movie, when I watched it, I felt like the pacing was really exciting. It pushed things along. It took Luke forever to like use the Force, and Rey's like beating a freaking Sith Lord practically, like
Right.
day one. But like at the same time, like they gave it a way to like kind of explain it, where it's like, okay, you can just like go with that and be like, you know what, whatever. They kind of made it make sense, even though it's like, well, it took Luke forever. But at the same time, it becomes, in my opinion, a much more entertaining movie. So I remember like watching in the theater and thinking that it was like so exciting the whole time. I enjoyed it. Like almost every moment I was like into it, and it was like exciting and fun and adventurous, and it wasn't like let me explain the Force and only sit here and meditate and then try and move it, and oh my gosh, you're not doing it, try harder.
It's true. There wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
Well,
so I like that.
I did enjoy, from someone who has watched the Star Wars movies since I was a child and I can remember, I loved this movie. I thought that they did a really excellent job holding true to the Star Wars theme, just in general. They hit all of the points for me. And I am very excited to have a female protagonist. I think that that's awesome. It's not perfect, but it's great. It's a great start. And I will say, just to comment on, Kylo Ren isn't really a Sith Lord. He's technically still a Jedi in training.
Right.
Maybe he's a dark Jedi. I think they might make that a thing.
Okay.
Because the Sith technically no longer exist.
Right,
And, you
but
know,
he's not...
If we're going to nitpick, yeah.
But he's
Okay.
he's still in training, I would say. I don't think that he ever got, like, fully
Well, no, he's
trained.
definitely not fully trained.
So that would make sense that she might be able to stand a chance. And
Right.
then, too, I think that she relies way more on the Force than he does because he's still struggling with light and dark. And
Right.
she's all about light, and she's kind of
Yeah.
got an understanding of
She
that
doesn't
and
have
figured it
inner
out.
conflict.
Yes.
Like in that form.
Right.
So I think that might be one way to explain why there was
Right.
a bit of a chance for her.
Right. And then also Finn injured him too. Like
That's true.
they
He
kind of
was-
double teamed
And
him.
he was injured.
And
yeah.
he was
Chewie
shot by the
blasted him in the gut.
That's right. And he kept like
So,
hitting
punching
himself
him,
in
yeah.
the wound to try to...
and you know,
Hiding it.
those moments really made him seem like some kind of sick weirdo, which I think was
Like power
interesting.
through the pain, power through the pain.
Yeah.
Like pain is nothing. Like hurt yourself, like whatever, some weird.
Well, if he's channeling Darth Vader, I mean, how could he not fight? He didn't lose his hand, you know?
Right, that's true.
I bet part of him was so happy when he got cut up.
Because he's more like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Because Darth Vader practically burned to death.
Right. So he was probably like, oh, I've earned mechanical attachments now, or I've...
Next,
No, you know, if
he's earned a
he's going to go to
volcano lair.
Snoke and he's going to say, listen, I need all sorts of new breathing apparatus.
I need
and
some-
I need all
buffs.
sorts of enhancement.
Yes.
Next movie, he's gonna be more robotic, and he's gonna live in a volcano.
He's going to live in Darth Vader's volcano castle. I betcha.
he's
I
gonna-
betcha he is. You don't think he will?
They made a point to set up that shot,
He's
which
gonna
was
be
cool
like
in
Lord
Rogue One.
Sauron. Lord of the Rings.
Well, remember in Rogue One that like it showed Darth Vader's lair. It was
Oh,
like
that's
within
right.
a volcano.
And he would probably consider himself the heir to that property.
I'm his grandson, and I
This,
killed
this
his.
is my
True.
right.
That's not wrong. He is the grandson. So, yeah. He would be the heir.
He wants his trust.
Yes.
Granddaddy's trust.
That's right.
Well, we'll see what they
Granddaddy's
do.
volcano.
We'll see what they do next with everybody. It should be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
It better be interesting. Is really what I should say.
Yes.
They can't mess this up now.
The little stuff I've heard about Episode 8 is that we'll see Snoke on his mobile command base.
Oh.
Is
That's-
it a wheelchair?
Oh, man. That's cool.
Right where I like one.
I know he's his mobile. It's like-
Well, he's always in
His
that
little
chair
scooter.
in his...
His Mobile Suit Gundam. Hello. No, he's in Super Star Destroyer.
Super duper Star
Oh,
Destroyer.
It's the biggest and baddest one you ever seen.
Another one bigger than a planet? Because
No.
the last one was a
They're,
planet.
they're gonna have a hologram of like the Star Killer base,
This
And
was
then-
Star Killer
and then
base.
it's gonna get,
this
like, way
is his
bigger.
Super Star Destroyer.
and they're gonna and then Hana's. Someone's gonna be like, "What? So what? It's bigger."
So we blow it up.
Chewbacca's gonna say that because Han's dead. So
Yep. So anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for our discussion.
yes.
Okay.